unique.
You are what you do. You can say any amount of things that you want to say, but what you do is what everybody sees.
People are like, oh, I'm just going to JV it. Like, it's just JV it. Like, what the hell does that mean?
I cannot tell you how excited I am to hang out with you guys today, so thank you so much.
Well, then that end buyer could come back and say, well, I didn't fully understand that it was subject to.
That's not a thing. Like, the SEC has thought of all of these things. They've been here since 1932.
And you can do what you want with your property.
Buyers have time, they have negotiating power, they have options.
Oh my gosh, I'm blown away by your inexperience, and they've been in business 20 years.
And that includes things other people put on your property, right? It's your property to be okay. Suddenly, Cousin Jimmy's in a lawsuit.
A novation is replacing one contract or one obligation with another.
Out with the old, in with the new.
Yes.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Today, our topic is Investor Temperature Pulse, Trends and Predictions for 2024. I'm Andy Fowler, and I'm here with Sean St. Clair. If you're new to the show, make sure to like our channel. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on X, formerly known as Twitter. You can find us at the handle @InRem Podcast. That's @InRem Podcast. Also, you can find an audio version of the podcast. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or all of the major platforms that host audio podcasts. Make sure to download it, give it a listen. We would appreciate it. With that, we're going to turn it over to Sean, who has our legal update.
Thank you, Andy. So our legal update today is a discussion on what is a personal guarantee and when would you as an investor want to require it. So basically, a personal guarantee is a document whereby an individual agrees to be personally responsible for the debts and obligations of an entity. So as an investor, you may want to require a personal guarantee in a couple of situations. One is if you are providing some type of private money financing, some form of investment into a project. You're providing a loan, either a bridge loan, an earnest money deposit loan, or some other type of funding for another investor or company to perform, build out a project, buy property, whatever the case may be. You're going to provide that to them so that they can, go about their business. You may want a personal guarantee if the borrower is going to be an entity, because if a borrower is an entity, normally if the investor has structured things right, it would be a single asset entity formed for just that particular property, that particular project. And you want to make sure, though, that there's other assets on the hook. There's the individuals are on the hook if things go awry and you're not being paid as a lender. So in that case, you want a personal guarantee. The second scenario where you may want a personal guarantee is if you own real estate as an investor and you are going to sell that real estate to an entity who's going to be the buyer, and you're going to do it on some form of seller carryback financing. So you are going to then become the lender on that property. So you're going to sell it and you're going to expect that the buyer, who is an entity, is going to make payments to you over time. In that case, you want to have a personal guarantee in place, or you may want to have a personal guarantee whereby the owners of the entity are going to say, hey, if something happens and this entity can't pay, then we personally will step up and be responsible. A couple of things, though, to consider before you go down the personal guarantee route. First is you need to be aware of community property implications. So here in Arizona, a personal guarantee is not enforceable against community assets, so a married couple's community assets, unless both spouses sign that guarantee. So I've seen over the years of practicing law guarantees that my clients or others are trying to enforce, and I look at the guarantee and it only has one spouse's signature on it, and the other spouse didn't sign. And in that case, unless the spouse signing it has tons of sole and separate property, which is rarely the case, the guarantee really wasn't even worth the paper it was written on, because all the assets of that married couple are held as community property. So you need to make sure, at least here in Arizona and other community property states, that both spouses sign the guarantee. The second thing that you need to consider when you're dealing with residential real estate, at least here in Arizona, is that if you're going to be the seller carryback lender, so you're gonna provide seller carryback financing. In Arizona, we have anti-deficiency statutes, and those anti-deficiency statutes basically say that when a borrower is obtaining financing, whether from the seller or a third party, to purchase property, that they generally never have any type of the borrower never has liability outside of the property. So the lender's only remedy is to pursue a foreclosure of the property, but the lender cannot go after the borrower's other assets to recover the loan balance. Well, things are different if the entity is buying it and you require a personal guarantee. In that case, if you put in the personal guarantee that the guarantors are waiving their rights under Arizona's anti-deficiency statutes, and that they will not be subject, and the guarantee will not be subject to those anti-deficiency statutes, the law actually allows that guarantee to withstand the anti-deficiency statutes. So even though you cannot go against the borrower for a deficiency judgment, you can, and it opens the door to go against the guarantors for the deficiency judgment. So it's something to consider here in Arizona, making sure that if you are going to do a personal guarantee where you're doing, some type of seller carryback financing, that you are putting in the guarantee language that the guarantors are waiving their rights under Arizona's anti-deficiency statutes. So a personal guarantee, once again, just to summarize, is a document whereby individuals agree to be responsible for the debts and obligations of an entity. And second, you would want to use them if you are providing any type of financing, or if you are selling real estate whereby you are providing carryback financing.
All right. Thank you, Sean, for the legal update. With that, let's go into a couple of announcements for you, the listener. The Creative Finance Collective, every Tuesday at 3:00 p.m. Arizona time. What is the Creative Finance Collective? That is your opportunity to learn a little bit more about creative finance, and that's our opportunities as attorneys to get together and meet and talk about creative finance. So what is it? We meet for an hour every Tuesday at 3 p.m. with other professionals in the creative finance space, from professionals, mainly lawyers from other jurisdictions, who are practicing in this area, who see it from different angles, who experience creative finance with regard to different laws. We have really kind of a mastermind discussion on what they're seeing in their states, what we're seeing in ours, how we can make each other's forms better, but we take questions throughout the entire hour. So that's an opportunity for you, the listener, the investor who wants to learn more about creative finance or how you might integrate what you're doing or adopt new strategies, and ask questions all along the way. So we're available for the entire hour. So make sure to be a part of that. And join us 3 p.m. Arizona time, the Creative Finance Collective. You can find it on YouTube, you can find it on Facebook, and you can find it on X, formerly known as Twitter. Also, we're taking questions today. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. We'll try to answer questions in the final 15 minutes of the episode. We're talking about real estate trends, taking kind of a pulse of the market, what we think it's going to look like heading into 2024. So if you got questions, make sure to post them there. We'll get to those and answer those in the final 15 minutes. With that, we're going to go ahead and get into our episode today. Again, we're talking about investor temperature, pulse, trends, and predictions for 2024. So one of the things we wanted to do that was unique to kind of this episode was not just have one guest, but have a variety of different guests from a variety of different places throughout the country that can kind of give us what they're seeing, what they saw in 2023, and what they're going to see in 2024. So with us, we have we got three folks, two or three folks, and I wanted to bring them up one at a time. First, investor and life coach Keston Glasgow. Keston, how you doing?
Hey man, I'm doing fantastic. Good to be with you guys again.
Yeah, good to have you. I know you've been a guest on our show, so I'm not going to have you relive everything that you do, but just give us an idea for our listeners. What your real estate investing, what you're involved in, and what kind of you like to be involved in when it comes to real estate.
Awesome. So I got into real estate 3 years ago, and since then we've acquired $10 million of real estate. We own multifamily properties. We have some Airbnbs. We're making some changes. So I guess that's some of the conversation that we're going through. And I've done flips, I've done lease options, I've done all types of seller carryback, subject to creative. Almost all my properties have been bought creatively, and I've built it with no money out of my pocket initially to start. But I played the game of Monopoly to start selling properties and using the money to scale.
All right. Well, thanks again, Keston, for being with us. We also have real estate agent, real estate investor, Templeton Walker here in Arizona. Templeton, how are you?
I'm well. How you guys doing?
Doing well, Templeton. I know you've been with us before, but give our listeners just an idea before we get into it. How you're involved in real estate and what you like to focus on.
So I'm vertically integrated. So I have a traditional real estate team with about 20 agents. I have a off-market acquisition company where we wholesale contracts across the nation, specifically here in Arizona. That funnels into a fix and flip company. So I'll buy my own deals when they make sense. And then that led to a lot of files, which led to it making sense to have a title company. So I have a joint venture with Magnus. We have a title company, and then we have a large portfolio of assets that we try to keep our own deals.
All right, great, thank you, Templeton. And did we have Mark Monroe? I know Mark was going to join us. I'm not sure if he was able to make it. Do we have him? No. Okay, so we're going to talk with Keston and Templeton. Mayu, why don't you put all of us side by side so that matches everybody's camera a little bit better rather than the three-person format that we currently have. There we go. That works better. So guys, we appreciate you being with us. And as agents and investors, we know that you guys know this market. And so we're going to pose these questions to each of you and try to get your sentiment on the market and where you're at. We'll start with this, and I'll pose this to both of you, but start with Keston. What has 2023 in the real estate market? What have you seen, Keston? If you had to sum it up as to what the market's been to you and what you're seeing.
So as a newer real estate investor, it was strange. It was different. It wasn't what I started doing. And so I had to hold on to the knowledge of my mentors to navigate this situation that we was going through in 2023. And, thank God for having mentors who have been through it, who are able to guide us through kind of knowing the ups and the downs, because we've seen the interest rates skyrocket and, go from things being amazing and an amazing market where we were doing a crap ton of deals. You could basically wholesale or get things off really quickly, to things just being really weird. And like I'll tell you how weird it got for me, where I even moved to Tennessee to buy properties out there. And it got so weird in that time that we weren't able to buy the properties that we intended to buy because of how weird the market got. And so with that being said, we scaled down tremendously on the amount of real estate transactions that we did, and we just kind of sustained and maintained what we had. We implemented different strategies. We're still implementing some different strategies into like the properties that we had as Airbnbs, and we're moving them over to either plat splits or group homes and things like that. And so we're just pivoting to a higher cash flow in this market strategy that has been working really well for us.
Now, Templeton, what about from you? You approach this from an entire different side of the country. You're in the Southwest here in Arizona. Give us an idea what you've seen and what your takeaways kind of have been for 2023.
And guys, I got to say, my audio is coming through a little choppy, so I'm doing my best to keep up. So hopefully I do well here for what you're asking.
Sure.
Similarly, 2020, 2021 was gangbusters. I mean, we had scaled our company up to 70 employees. We had 45 cold callers overseas. We were selling most things to hedge funds. So it was a fun time. But I would say March of 22, we really started to feel like, I mean, our market went 5x the wrong way as far as inventory goes in the matter of 6 weeks. We went from 3,000 homes on market up to 20,000 homes like that. And when the rate hikes happened, I mean, the buying just stopped. I mean, I had about 32 flips at that time, 10 of which were luxury. And I mean, to be transparent.
Looks like we lost Templeton. We'll see if we can bring him back, having technical issues. Sounds like we may have him back. Let's see. Hey, Templeton, can you hear us? All right. So while Templeton works on that, we'll shift it back over to Keston. Keston, you explained kind of what you saw in 2023, but there's a big gap in time, right, between the beginning of 2023 and the end. Why don't you give us an idea how your strategies changed, if at all, or have changed, and kind of explain how and what that's looked like for you?
Yeah, so we just got really tight on the risks that we took. And so, like Templeton, I had some flips that got stuck, and we lost some. We lost money. You know, coming out of 22 and 23, there's a deal in Florida that we were flipping that, as a team, we lost about 60K on that deal. And so the things that we did was straight things that we knew guaranteed would be a win. The margins were a lot bigger. We had to underwrite way better in getting into those deals, take a lot less risk. And so once we did that and we just focused on our rentals, we were like, hey, you know what? We're at a decent place. Let's just focus on our rentals. Let's optimize what we have. And so we started looking more at the numbers, which, I mean, we're running a business, right? So before it was just like, let's just make money. But now once we stabilized and we're like, okay, what could we do in this crazy, weird season? Let's optimize the assets that we already have to see if we're not generating the best amount that we can. And so that's what we did. And so we looked at the income of the properties, we looked at their expenses, we evaluated the strategy. And so some strategies we implemented Airbnbs, and even in some of our multifamily properties, testing it out, we implemented some midterm rentals, reached out to different organizations to get them to use some of our units. Group homes, I started partnering with a buddy of mine to do group homes. And so we just started using different strategies to optimize the properties that we already had.
Private chat. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
See me?
yes, we can hear you, Templeton. So that's.
Thank you, baby Jesus. What's up, guys?
So, Keston, just to follow up on what you were saying as far as 2023, it sounds like, and if I'm hearing what you're saying correctly, is you've switched from, say, a fix and flip strategy, maybe even doing, kind of wholesale stuff, to really focusing on kind of long-term hold investing. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, and we had the holes. We had quite a few of the holes already. So we just kind of stopped on the active income side of things, where, the flips and the wholesaling and all of that. We just paused on the active income, and then we started to optimize our long term, and converted some of them to short term, converted them to higher income strategies, because of the L's that we were stuck with or were losing on the active income side. And one of my nonprofits, I have a company called Flipping Cancer, where we would flip the properties and donate to help cancer patients. And we had to pause that, right? We paused that because of what was happening. And what we started to do instead was we moved our mission over into our rental properties and started to take portions of the rental income to donate to help cancer patients instead of the flips. So we just had to pivot.
So Templeton, thanks for getting back on here. It
Sorry
looks
about
like
that.
technology's running a little more smooth now. But hey, before you dropped off, you were mentioning that you were kind of going through your situation in 2022. You had mentioned that you had a number of flips, and you were kind of going to tell us the results of some of those flips. And I think you dropped out. So you want to kind of talk to us about what things look like for 2022, and then how that transitioned into 2023?
Yeah, so we just everything was so good for so long. Like we got blind to some of our blind spots. Like everything we did worked, right? And so I said yes to every deal, and I was flipping $5 million houses, $3 million houses, and it was awesome. I mean, we made probably on the front end of 2022, we made 1.5 to 2 million bucks. And on the back end of 2022, we pretty much gave it back in losses. It was just like not fun. But our inventory just moved so quickly, and the rate hikes just really stopped affordability, which stopped demand. So I saw probably, like, personally, a 20% decrease in ARV on all of my flips, which was essentially what I had underwrite the spread for. So we had to get through that. It wasn't fun. And whatever we could stabilize and keep as a rental, we did. But there's some assets that just didn't make sense to hold. Like, so I had a business coach at the time. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Brett Tanner. He's a stud. He owns Be Wealthy Network. And he's my personal business coach. And I'm not kidding. Every 2 weeks, essentially, he was just walking me off the ledge and be like, do you really want to own a townhome in McCormick Ranch for 1.2 million? Like, really? He's like, can that cash flow? And I was like, no. So he's like, reduce price, sell it. So we just had to take our licks. Miguel, who's in our office here now, is me and him and Rodolfo. We hunkered down. We wholesaled a ton. We made sure that we kept our active income, and we got through it. And I'm happy to say now we're off everything. We're in our commercial building. We bought an old bar, and we converted it to our headquarters. So we kind of got through everything. So that was not fun. We really got through it by earning commissions and wholesale fees. But the fix and flip company was heavy for a bit. We were overexposed. And that problem wasn't unique. I mean, I saw that from almost every investor that I know. They were in the same spot. So it wasn't a unique problem, but I've definitely tried to imprint that in my soul and in my brain around, hey, I should have had rules around how much capital I had out for flips, how much capital I had into cryptocurrency, how much capital I had into venture capital. Just like I should have had thresholds, but I just said yes, yes, yes. So that's what 22 looked like. I felt like a professional firefighter. We were just putting out massive fires. We made a ton of money, but I felt like we never got to keep it. It was just like going to assets and going to problems. So we got through that. So now we've pivoted to a scaled down model. It's lean and mean. Like all the companies, we pretty much locked ourselves in a room. We're like, hey, these P&Ls got to go from 70 grand a month of expense to 10. And how do we do it? And it was hard, but we got through that. And now we're back. We've been back super profitable. And I'm actually thankful for the turn, because we had just got too fat. We had got too wide, and we had all sorts of stupid expenses because we were just making a ton of money, and it didn't matter until it did. Right. So 2024, what is it? 23?
Yeah. We're in 2023. We're about to go into 2024.
So 23 was kind of more of the same. We started to get out of that, but the market, you guys, was stuck in the mud. It's the truth. But here's what I love about that, you guys, is It's always darkest before the dawn, they say. And anyone who's still in this game doing what we do, you just got through some heavy stuff. If you're still in business, you just got through it. Like, awesome. And I think we have smoother waters on the horizon. I don't know. I mean, it could be Q3, Q4 of next year. But if you're able to lean out your P&L, make sure that your burn rate's low and that you're doing deals and you're staying profitable, which is what we've done, you're here. So now as everyone's getting cleared out, people are leaving the industry in droves, especially on the realtor side. I'm just gobbling up market share, and I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here next year. I'm going to be here 5 years from now. I'm going to be here 20 years from now. So just playing the long game. And I really like what we have on the horizon for 24.
Guys, so we've kind of talked a little bit about where we came from. We will talk about where we're heading, but just to have a discussion point as to where the market's at right now. And we found an interesting statistic. There's a term going around. You used it, Templeton, just a little bit ago. Housing affordability. Some are calling it a housing affordability crisis, created to some extent by obviously high cost of borrowing, but followed by a time of incredibly cheap lending, where buyers or sellers are sitting on, or homeowners, I should say, are sitting on very cheap mortgages. They don't want to sell. So that keeps it keeps the supply low and keeps prices up. So you've got this kind of like perfect storm of housing being incredibly unaffordable. But I thought this was an interesting kind of metric and wanted to get your take on it, just to kind of have a pulse of where we're at right now. And this is a median, kind of a national statistic, so it's not any one part of the country. But median new home prices. So brand new homes was at 409,000, which is down 17.6% compared to this time a year ago. So median new home prices have come down almost 18%. Meanwhile, the median price of an existing home is $391,800, which is up 3.4% compared to this time last year, showing the gap between new homes and resale homes is basically closing. And essentially, if it did close, it'd be the first time they'd seen that since 2005. So I'm presuming this is a lending issue with expensive borrowing, right? So the new homes to try to sell them are coming down, but existing homes are coming up. What does that statistic tell you guys, and how does that impact your strategy going forward? Keston, we'll start with you.
So that statistic tells me, could you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. That statistic tells me it's a lending thing, right? And so right now, for me, it makes all the sense in the world to buy newer properties because of the gap. Because at some point in time, it's gonna appreciate, right? So you're getting a newer asset for a very similar price, and the appreciation over time is gonna be equal. And so for me, it's, if we're in this game for a long time, which I am, I'm looking at over time. And so for the money that you put in now over time, is better spent on the newer asset. Now, it also means that the customer is this affordability thing it's still going to be a problem. So there's a lot more tenants than people who can actively buy. So we're seeing a lot of room housing being like exploding everywhere. Like I literally put up a property on PadSplit as a test, a new property that we're doing, and that's PadSplit is a room board type of situation. And in 2 days, there's like over 40 like people waiting to see like when it goes live and interested, and that's insane. And it's not even like super close to transport and all the usual things that people say that it needs to be. I'm like, let's test this house out. And so we're seeing the demand just become so much more crazy for these types of properties because it's hard, it's expensive for a buyer. Because what we need to see with those numbers is, are they making more money as well? I don't believe they're making more money at all, but the prices of the homes are going up, and there's a lot to say where people are not. Um, I don't want to say my millennials, but let's say millennials, and I'm 37, so I'm right on the cusp of millennials and the other generation. But they don't want ownership. They're busy entrepreneurs. They're busy people who don't have time to want a house. It's the few of them who want a family, who want to do those things, who are still trying to buy properties. But it's right now we have a bunch of people who want to work online, so they just want to have fun and do things fast, and so that's kind of what I'm seeing. And so having more of those types of properties, especially with apartment complexes and that type of thing, um, that's the way for me right now, and that's what that is an indicator of. So I rather ultimately invest in a newer property for the long-term game, because the prices are so much similar now.
Yeah, Templeton, what's your takeaway in this gap that's closing between new home prices and old
Well,
homes?
so I think there's a very clear function as to why. So before I get to my takeaway, the whole reason why you're seeing such a decline in new home versus resale is because the cost of carry. And that's it. Like new home, those are developers that are levered and they have expensive debt that they need to get off of. They have a short-term window that they're supposed to go make their money, right? So they have a higher motivation to move their product and move their inventory. That's it. And then on a resale home, to your point, people are sitting on 2 and 3% interest rates. So they don't have the same burn or same motivation to move off of their asset as quick. So they have the leverage to price accordingly and not sell. So in the resale game, you just have an underlying burn that is way more healthy on the resale market, which is what's causing appreciation. And on a new build market, you have a developer go in that goes, hey, I'm going to go build 400 homes, and they borrowed the money to go do that. They need to get these homes sold to get off of that burn, to get off of that debt. So I think that's the number one function you're seeing in pricing is, even though the new build, to Keston's point, is a premium product, the person who currently owns it has a higher desire to get off of it now, because they don't want to, unless they went into it planning to do a build to rent community, which most people aren't, they need to go sell these houses to go make their money. So they're like, fine, reduce price, get off of it, live to fight another day. I mean, how many developers do we all know that have gone boom and bust, right? They make a ton of money or they lose a ton of money. So right now, this past year, they are trying to get off that burn. So that's the function. I think that's the number one reason why you see the difference in the two assets. I love buying newer houses. So for me, I'm like deal agnostic. I don't really care as long as there's spread. I bought a home that was built in 1916 the other month, and I bought a 2019 home last week. So for me, it's just, does the math. I always say that, does the math. And if it maths, great. But if I have a choice, I always want newer because I have less CapEx. But I'm having a hard time here in Phoenix, unless I'm buying something subject to or creative finance or seller finance. It's like almost impossible to make it cash flow if I have to go put new debt on it. So I'm not adding a ton here in the Valley right now, because our median price point is more like, I think here in Phoenix is like 460, 440, something like that. And if you go put debt on that right now, it doesn't cash flow. So I'm mostly only buying stuff that if I can burr it and I have enough spread to put traditional debt where I'm at least not burning money and I'm not trapping any money in the deal, I'll buy that deal right now to hold. Or like I just bought a condo in Old Town Scottsdale that I'll close on, I think, tomorrow. And 3.65 interest rate, a $900 pity payment on a 1-1 condo right behind Giant spring training. Like I can traditional rent that for $2,000, or I can Airbnb it and probably go get 3 or 4 a month. And my debt is so low, it's a no-brainer. So hopefully that answers the question as far as old or new. But like I'm telling you, it's the money, it's the underlying debt that each asset class is on, is why you're seeing the discrepancy, in my opinion.
So I know that Arizona and I think Georgia as well are probably in very similar boats with, still kind of a strong appreciating market, and it's hard to cash flow the properties and in those markets using traditional financing. You're looking at doing subject to. Have you guys moved out of those, markets at all? And are you investing in, different markets throughout the country that still have some level of affordability that, will cash flow if you use traditional financing?
Keston, you want to go first or me?
Sure, I could go. No, I'm not a traditional finance guy unless it's like multifamily, and it would have to underwrite. It would have to still underwrite perfectly, not even perfectly, amazingly, right? Um, and so traditional financing is not necessarily. It's my last option. Recently, I have two properties, Georgia, next to each other, and I wanted to buy the one across the street. And because I've kind of gone over wanting to buy it creatively, but they weren't open to it. So I tried to see what debt would look like, and there was a cap where I've visualized buying this house for like ever since I moved to Georgia and it came available, but I just couldn't make it work with the debt, and the strategy as to where I would feel safe, right? And could I have put a couple of more thousand down and buy it? But I would have been pushing my own underwriting principle, and the potential of getting caught with my pants down would have been a lot higher. And so I had to practice discipline and not buy the house and kind of, I don't even think it's sold yet, but that's the type of discipline. So no, I'm not going in trying to buy traditionally in other markets or anything like that. If it's not a deal, we're not buying.
Transparently for me, guys, am I up? Can you hear me?
Yep. You're good. Mhm.
For me, unless it's like that deal that I'm closing on tomorrow where it's just a no-brainer, I'm pretty much just recapitalizing. Like I lost so much liquidity last year. Like I have a philosophy called SWAN. Like I always like to have a SWAN number, which stands for sleep well at night. Like I like to have a bunch of cash. Like I want way too much money sitting in an account where people are like, that's dumb, that's underutilized. And I'm like, cool. I just feel better when I have it. So for me, I'm trying to temper my own and like, because I'm like tenacious. Like I'll go, go, go. I'm like putting the dog on the leash for a little bit, get the SWAN number capitalized back to where I really like. Um, and then I'll probably start to look. I mean, not that I'm not buying deals, but right now everything is active income. And then I'm replenishing the SWAN account. And then I have different rules around money where I like to invest in different stuff. But until I like to always have like 3 years of like runway, which is insane. And I have a ton of cash flow just off assets. So do I even need that? Probably not. But you guys, I just walk around happier. I just got like a little more pep in my step when I have a ton of cash. That's just the way my brain works. So that's what I'm working on right now is just getting back to super flush. So probably by end of Q1, I'll be back to where I really feel comfortable and like to be. And then I've been looking at Milwaukee. I've done some stuff in St. Louis, Kansas City, but I would like to get into a more affordable market than just here in Arizona. But I haven't truly like started to turn those stones over until I have a bunch of cash again, because I'm a baby, and if I don't have a bunch of money, I'm not well.
So we've talked about affordability and kind of certain generations wanting to rent as opposed to buy, and it's fairly competitive out there, at least here in Arizona or the Phoenix metro area for rentals. And Andy and I did a show a while back where we talked about shared ownership and different strategies to allow basically people who otherwise wouldn't be able to own a home to own it. And I know, Keston, you had mentioned pad split, which is kind of a strategy to deal with affordability and take advantage of the affordability issues out there. So I'll start with you, Templeton, and then we'll turn it over to Keston. But what are you guys doing, or are you doing anything in going into 2024 to take advantage of and provide, greater affordability, but at the same time, increasing your own profits in doing so?
So pad split's a great option. I've looked at it. I haven't really found an asset yet that I really wanted to try it with. And for me, I'm at a spot in my life and career where low noise, high margin is like how I live my life, because I got 5 kids and a bunch of stuff going on. So like a little bit of extra return, if it's going to be a pain in the butt, I kind of don't want it. I mean, I'll take the extra return, but like how much brain damage does it take? So pad split to me has felt a little bit like it would be that. I also say that without having done it, so that's just a outside opinion. So I guess I was kind of doing pad split years ago. So I own a bunch of houses around Grand Canyon University, and I gave a partner some equity, and he runs it all. But we put 2 students per room, and we do 5 bedrooms, and it's $500 a room. So a old house over there that would normally only get me $1,800 in rent, it's getting me $5,000 in rent. So, and we have about almost 50 units because the bedrooms almost act as a unit. So I still do that. So I'm still, that's never stopped. And that's been a really nice niche that I think people could explore, is get around a nice university that has not such great housing options, put together a really nice house and go to students per unit. I make their parents personally guarantee, and we ACH from their parents' account. That's been that business is awesome. And I was doing those in 2014 and 2015 for like $100,000. And now those are worth $300-400. So there's like ton of equity, a ton of cash flow, ton of depreciation on my taxes. So that's been a win. I guess that's essentially pad split, but I have someone dealing with it. Like I couldn't even tell you what's going on in these houses, which is kind of where my brain needs to be. So I think pad split would be a nice way to jump into that. I still really think well done Airbnbs can still crush. I still have 5. They're smaller, they're well located, they're cute, and they cash flow great, and they have good debt on them. So those are kind of and then if something's going to be just like low noise, high margin, sorry, I think I need to move, my light went off. If something's going to be a pain, but it can cash flow just regular, I'm going to give it to my traditional manager and let him rent it and never think about it again.
What about you, Keston?
Yeah, I totally agree. For affordability, pad split is kind of the way that we're looking into now and forward with. One thing that we've been exploring part group home operators, and because I don't want more hands-on. I don't want to be hands-on when it comes to managing any rents. I haven't had to do it for the last year and change, and I have no intentions of getting back hands-on. I come in to help strategize as to, okay, this is where we're at, this is what we could possibly do, but when it comes to the management of it, I don't participate. So I'm looking for more group home partners, which I have an amazing one who's gotten a bunch of them set up in Texas right now. And so I'm taking profits and dumping it over there while he runs it. At some point in time, they are going to come out to Georgia, but as they stabilize, as they systematize and all that type of stuff, I'll probably give them some properties out here to get started and just partner in that type of way. But at this point, I have absolutely zero interest in being an operator. Zero.
So we've talked about pad split, and so we'll give them a little promotion here. What is pad split, so that people know exactly what it is and how it works?
So Keston, you're probably better to answer than me. I've gone to some meetups and talked to a few guys, but that's it.
So it's interesting because I got introduced to pad split when in 2020, before COVID. And I always thought that it was smart, but it really kicked up in the last year or so. And so what pad split is essentially like room and board. So you have a property, and each every single bedroom, you have a tenant that pays for that bedroom. And so the price differs based on if you have a toilet, if it's a Jack and Jill, like just based on the amenities that this person gets, if it's like a separate entrance. And so having properties with those types of rooms, you end up getting a lot more money. And so one of the properties that we're converting, it has it's 3-bedroom upstairs, and it has a separate basement that has its own entrance and everything. And for this to make sense for a pad split, what we did was we rented the bottom traditionally, because pad split, they pay like 200, 250, sometimes 300 a week. And so it just didn't make sense for a full property, for a full basement, because we could get 1,500. So we rented out downstairs for 1,500 and did pad split upstairs, where we're getting 350 a bedroom, and we're just going to convert one of the living rooms into a bedroom. So four bedrooms by 250. Like, now the math is starting to look a lot better, because we would have gotten for a full, just renting it out to a family. So now we're getting over $1,000, $1,500 more just going that area, doing it that way. We have managers in place, and I think it's a lot easier to do as an investor who already has an Airbnb. I don't know if I would have done it starting from scratch, with the investment that it would take to convert. And maybe I would, but being that it's already furnished, it already got all the everything. Literally, we have to pay to put up a wall, and that's going to cost us about three grand or so. So the investment, we're going to make that money back in a matter of 2 months or so, and now we're all in profit based on the investment we made before from the Airbnb. So that's pad split. That's kind of like some of the part of the direction that we're going in right now.
All right, guys. So let's talk about 2024. None of us can predict the future. We don't know, but we have ideas, or what we think it's going to do. Templeton, why don't we start with you? What do you think the housing market's going to look like in 2024?
Do you want macro or here in Phoenix?
You give us both.
So I don't study the macro as much, to be honest. So I think you're going to still see average appreciation 3%, 5% over the grand scheme. Here in Phoenix specifically, I think we're going to see our inventory sitting in Maricopa County right now at 16,400 homes, which is pretty much a balanced market for us. I would say by Q2, we'll have rates back in the 5. And again, I'm guessing here, guys, but this is just my opinion. I think we'll see rates back in the 5. I think you're going to see a marketplace that is going to be excited for that, right? They had to go through this dark time to realize a 5% interest rate is actually good. And they're not so gun shy anymore to be like, okay, I'm ready to get back in the game. I don't know when I think people are going to get off the idea that 2 and 3% debt is ever going to come back. I mean, that'd be great, but I don't think it is. So once we see that, I bet our inventory falls back into a heavy seller's market. We'll stay under 10,000 homes, and really good product. It's going to sell first weekend, multiple offers. I like either a premium luxury, because when I flipped up there, you have cash buyers. Like, those people they were just rich. It was like, all right, rates? Yeah, what rates? Here's $4 million cash. I like flipping under 500,000 right now. And my kind of rule of thumb is like, can I be done in the amount of days that the thousands is? So by that, I mean, can I do a 50-day reno for 50,000 or less and try to go make $50,000, if that makes sense? So my cash outlay, my renovation, and my net return should match. And I want to be in and out within the same amount of days. So month and a half, 2 months, can I go get 30, 40, 50 grand? So I think we're going to see an improvement. The short answer is I think we're going to see an improvement. I think we'll see inventory fall, so you'll have a shortage on supply. And if affordability can start to get in there, you know, it kind of makes a perfect storm where I think people are going to be like, dang it, I wish I would have bought last year when rates were higher, and now I can just go refinance.
Keston, what about you? What do you think 2024 is going to look like for housing?
From a multifamily side, I think that even right now, there's a lot of people who have to get out of properties, who have to refi and all of that. And so I think that it's going to be a great opportunity in the multifamily space to be able to grab some of these assets for people who need to. And especially a year ago, they weren't as hip into creative financing as most people are hearing about it a lot more now, especially in commercial. So I think that there's still going to be a ton of opportunity, if not more, for people who have more tools in their tool belt. When it comes to single family side, personally, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to what's going on in the single family side. Only if it got to be these criterias. Only if it's a newer home that has low debt and somebody is willing to give me a deal. And so people know that's what I'm looking for. I have once I got over to multifamily, I got a little, let's call it more bougie. And I just love Class A. I love Class A assets. And so that give me a built home that is cheap debt, and I don't mind a higher entry fee because it would appreciate over time. I know that the debt, you're probably not going to see it again. And so there are things that I'm just okay with now as an investor, where before, when I got in 2020, I wanted, like, it got to be this amazing deal or this cheap entry fee, zero money out of pocket. Now that I've built other businesses and there's cash coming in, I'm like, I could hold on to this for the future. Like, which kid's school is going to be paid for with this property in the next 5-10 years, right? That's kind of how I'm thinking about it. So I think there's going to be opportunity, but it depends on the person who's looking at the deal. They may see an opportunity or obstacle.
Now, guys, I know that residential is its own animal, and commercial and some of the other ones have different metrics. They're at a different place economically, but are there areas within real estate investing that outside of the residential market that you have your eyes on right now that you think might have interesting opportunities, whether it be commercial, whether it be industrial or something like that heading into 2024? Templeton, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think commercial office is awesome. We just went through the process where we repurposed the old bar and we turned it into office, but we actually learned a lot through that process that we should have kept this a bar or a restaurant because it's a standalone building, and we could have probably leased it for 15 grand a month just on a triple net. But we're not smart, so here we are with an office, and and Miguel's over here laughing. But it's like, I mean, we just didn't know what we didn't know, but it did help me understand and identify an opportunity that, like, there's a lot of juice on the commercial side, like a lot of juice. If you go get a good deal, like the way we did, we still did really well on it, but we could have done that much better. So I'm thankful for that experience. So I'm looking at poorly operated or kind of bleeding assets on the edge of growth. So like downtown Chandler is where we're at. Downtown Chandler expert, let's go. It's so much institutional money's coming in. So I almost don't need to research. I still will research, but like this company just built a $15 million product. Do you think they thought about migration patterns and employment? And, you know, like if they're willing to build 400 units, I'm willing to buy something right next to it because they see the growth, right? So sometimes you can just simplify it and be like, oh, there's opportunity here. So I like commercial office, and then you can repurpose like we just did. And if we were smarter, we would have just kept it in the restaurant side.
I just call that another form of tuition. You know, that's just how we learn, right?
I've been paying a lot of that lately.
Keston, what about you? You mentioned multifamily, that you think that's going to provide some opportunities. Are there other areas that you have your eye on and coming into 2024?
In real estate, because business buying is a whole different animal that
Sure.
I'm into as well. But in real estate, if it's like I said before, it got to be that newer home that has cheap debt if it's single family, or like real estate, commercial real estate, triple net lease, where you're just super hands off and collecting this fat check. Man. It just all makes so much sense to me. And it wasn't until I got into multifamily that it just blew my mind, like what people would pay triple net and how hands off you'd be in commercial real estate. And it literally made me shut down quite a bit of my real estate businesses once I started to understand it, because I felt like we were working 10 times as hard over there for a deal that you could buy, raise the rents, and like the property. So one of the deals that we have, we bought for 4.7 in a year and change. It's now worth 9.7, right? We raised the rents, and it's just like, this is silly, you know? I will play that game all day versus what we did in getting started. But again, that was tuition. We learned incredible skills. But going forward, I wouldn't waste my time on small deals. I would just go like big commercial deals that I know I could look at and be like, okay, here's the opportunity and here's how we could rent it. This is what we could do, and just jump in that way.
Yeah.
To piggyback on his point real quick, I always tell people that have like a big goal, I'm like, hey, it's hard to go be an elk hunter if you go kill every bunny. And like, you got to be careful what you shoot because it all requires work. So I think that's important.
Yeah, and it scares the elk away.
Yeah, and then they're gone, and they're like,
Yeah,
you're a bunny hunter. What are you doing here? It's like, no, I kill elk, bro. I swear.
Well, guys, thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate it. Real quick, tell our listeners how they can find with you. Templeton, we'll start with you.
Instagram's gonna be the best spot, Templeton_Walker, or YouTube channel, which we're planning on putting content out again, Templeton Walker.
All right. How about you, Keston?
For me, it's on Instagram as well, Kes on Purpose. Or if you want to reach out to me on YouTube, our YouTube channel, it's the Man Cave Talk pod, which is pretty cool. You all should subscribe. The Man Cave Talk.
Sounds good. Find them both on YouTube and Instagram. Keston and Templeton, thanks so much. It was awesome. Go kill it in 2024.
Keston, I just DM'd you, brother.
Awesome, bro. Reach out.
Okay, hey, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, sounds good. We'll talk to you guys again. With that, everybody, that is our show for the week. Make sure to join us next week and this afternoon for the Creative Finance Collective. We'll see you next week.
Have a good day, everyone.